Hello, I'm the real-life fake wizard. In brightest day, in blackest night, no mystery box shall escape my sight. Lanterns premiered on HBO Max on August 16th, 2026. This hour-long pilot sees Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan and Aaron Pierre as Jon Stewart together in live action, doing a sort of murder mystery in small-town Nebraska. You know, the exact place you'd think to see a cosmic space cop story take place. The Green Lantern Corps are intergalactic peacekeepers, and this story places them in Rushville, Nebraska to investigate a football game shooting, clearly inspired by True Detective, and might have played out in a more satisfying way if the writers didn't hate the source material, hate the characters they're writing for, and hate you, the viewer. I'm the real-life fake wizard, and this is a Fake Wizards review and mystery box analysis of Lanterns Episode 1. We're going to discuss 85 mystery box threads this show establishes because, fair warning, this is a mystery box show. Mystery boxing, for those of you who don't know, is a strategy made popular by JJ Abrams and then inherited by Damon Linedlof, who is one of the many rejects from the school of JJ Abrams. Lanterns operates like the reverse of a Russian doll. Instead of taking out a smaller doll inside a larger one, in this case the writer proposes a series of questions, then puts those questions inside a larger box, followed by more questions going into the next larger box and the next box. And then eventually you have this big Christmas present of flatulence and non-satisfying answers by the end of the season or show. Episode 1 opens with Jon Stewart as a kid in, I think, 1996, watching a 60 Minutes episode featuring Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern. It's established that there can be only one Green Lantern, and Hal has been active for roughly 10 years at this point. Jon's father, a military man, walks in, and while we know that Jon Stewart's father is known as being something of an abuser in origin, in this show he takes his son outside, has him put an apple on his head, and then shoots it with a gun. Behind Jon, the wall already has bullet holes, implying that this act is something that routinely happens and is intended to turn Jon into a fearless soldier. Now, this is the opening scene, and already we're doing some stupid nonsense. They tell you this show is going to be gritty, it's going to be grounded. Put the kids to bed, honey. James Gunn's Green Lantern show is on tonight. And the opening scene is a military man shooting an apple off his son's head. This is where verisimilitude goes to die. Firstly, what happens if Jon sneezes? What happens if Papa Stewart is having an off night and misses? It's implied he's active military. Are there no neighbors around to hear the gunshots? No other servicemen in the area, perhaps? You've got lots of holes already back there. How often are you engaging in this practice? And those holes are low to the ground. What? Were you doing this when Jon was 4 years old? Poppycock. This show is gonna be 8 weeks of bullshit. Well, from there, we jump to 2016. Jon Stewart is Aaron Pierre now, and he's in training to take over as Green Lantern should anything happen to Hal Jordan. Wink! Despite that not being how a Green Lantern is chosen, by the way. So already we have Jon's fearlessness continuity ruined, and also how the Green Lanterns are chosen is kind of wishy-washy, not following the source material. But that's okay. This show is not interested in the source material. From here, we find out that Jon Stewart is a by-the-book stickler for the rules, and Hal Jordan is a washed-up loner loser disliked by lots of people, but also still liked by plenty of common folk, as if the writers hate Hal but wanted to feign that they don't hate him at this point in the story. Don't worry, they do. They certainly do hate Hal Jordan, of whom he throws his car off of a cliff to see what Jon Stewart does under the pressure of being tossed off a cliff in a moving car. Jon puts on the ring, survives by creating bubble wrap off screen, and then hikes to the nearest taco truck to regroup with Hal, who just tried to kill him. Along the hike, the ring comes alive and the 10-year younger Hal Jordan appears with a code phrase that John must tell current-day Hal because it triggers plot to happen. John tells Hal the code phrase and Hal takes off, abandoning John again. At which point, we get a montage of John via airport and TSA to Nebraska himself to regroup with Hal where, oh, look at that. A shooting has taken place at a football game, and Hal immediately clocks an alien disguised as a human that seems to know something about what took place with this shooting. We're introduced to unlikable Sheriff Girlboss, who is here specifically and only to be a friction point for our Green Lantern protagonists. It's at this point I would like to break from the scene-for-scene recap, right? I really don't like doing reviews that way and just explaining everything back that has happened, but for this show, I need to do it because it's all ramping into specific sequences that are so terrible they're funny, or they're so terrible they're tragic. At this point, Hal has clocked the alien dude. John and Sheriff Girlboss take off in a chase sequence to get the guy, specifically so there could be some kind of action set piece in this superhero show. Sheriff Girlboss arrests him. Hal wants to interrogate the alien man, but Sheriff Girlboss says, no, you can't. Why? Because you're a straight white man, Hal Jordan, or something like that. So, Hal and John go to a bar, and Hal Jordan instigates a bar fight so that he'll be arrested and put in a cell he's guessing conveniently will be next to the alien so he can ask him questions. But before we get to that, Jon Stewart, we find out, is sober, he doesn't drink, and with Hal arrested and dragged away, John gets busy hooking up with a grandma lot lizard. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's exactly what happens. And after they're done, he uses the Green Lantern ring to light up her cigarette. Yes, this happened. We don't have the time or the budget or the motivation to have the Green Lanterns in their suits or being superheroes. In fact, we're going to have Hal Jordan drop a line comparing his super suit to wearing a suit and tie, and how as you get older, you don't want to wear that anymore. But we certainly have the time to sacrilegiously have Jon Stewart use the lantern ring to light up Grandma Lot Lizard's after coitus cigarette. Thank you, James Gunn. The next day, we're at an arraignment for Hal, of which the bail is set at $100,000 for getting into a bar fight. Hal says, come on, to the judge, and the judge tacks on an extra $100,000 as punishment. So that's $200,000 for a bar fight. But don't worry, Hal has a bail-posting benefactor who comes to his aid, and what I believe will turn out to be some kind of J.D. Vance allegorical character in the form of rich Captain Cowboy Cocktacular William Macon, the father-in-law of Sheriff Girlboss, the father of Hal's lawyer, and the husband of the Grandma Lot Lizard that Jon Stewart hooked up with outside the trailer trash bar. You see now, that's why we had to go through all those plot details, because it was all getting to this point where we can laugh together that this show plays into and continues the James Gunn cock fetish fantasy. That's why you can't enjoy this show with your children, moms and dads and comic book fans, because the Damon Lindelof, Tom King, James Gunn Green Lantern needs to wrestle with themes of Nebraskan cuckoldry. From this point, we get an interrogation between Hal and the alien guy, who, you guessed it, is an alien, who says he's out for revenge and war, and he's specifically avoiding the Green Lantern Corps. I wonder why. And then promptly explodes. Hal uses the ring to put a bubble around him to contain the blast, and then we get a time skip. 10 years later. Now it's 2026, so current day, and Jon Stewart arrives back in Nebraska at that football field. Sheriff Girlboss greets him, and they approach a crime scene. Hal Jordan, in the present day, has been shot in the head. Green Lantern is dead, and his ring is gone. Before we continue, I want to be expressly clear with this imagery here. This is Kevin Smith's He-Man all over again. This is Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. This freeze frame here is how the people creating this show and this iteration of the character feel about you. What's that? You wanted to see a faithful adaptation of Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern? A man whose entire power is centered around standing up to fear? Which, if we want to get into the meta about that, is something we desperately need right now culturally. Like, we need bravery today and heroes that idealize virtues of bravery. But the stewards of this character shot him in the head as a means of shock value, so you keep tuning into their cuckoldry drama next week. These people hate you. They hate that you may have wanted to see Hal Jordan in his prime and in his suit fighting cosmic threats and actually personifying a man who has unbreakable courage. You can't have that because they don't believe in that. Now, plenty of people online are saying, oh, this is a fake out. Oh, he's gonna be the bad guy. Maybe there's gonna be a parallax twist in there. Maybe he's not dead at all. Or my personal favorite from the stupidest people, Wizard, there's still 7 episodes with Hal Jordan, so why don't you just enjoy those? People who are using that particular dismissive excuse are especially stupid and or disingenuous and should not be encouraged or entertained by anybody. Do not give those people the time of day. Far too many complacent people are saying, duh, we get 7 more episodes with him to find out how he died. And to those people, you miss the point. We wanted Green Lantern, but we're not getting Green Lantern. We're not getting Hal Jordan's Green Lantern. Oh, and we're not getting a good Jon Stewart either. And that's not for lack of Aaron Pierre doing the best he can with the script he's been given. The point is, these characters are not at all their original counterparts. They are there entirely to replace the originals for a new generation. Consider this. Superman has had plenty of movies and plenty of iterations. Plenty of actors have played Superman. Same with Batman. Same with Spider-Man now. These have transcended past the comic book pages or animated television shows. Green Lantern does not really have that. Green Lantern has the Ryan Reynolds movie, which was universally disliked. But what's wrong with wanting to see Green Lantern faithfully adapted to the television or the big screen? What's wrong with wanting to see authentically made Green Lantern? Why is the hero that stands up against fear the next thing to be deconstructed? Why this specifically? But you know what? To those dummies who want to say there are 7 more pain in my balls episodes left we need to review together, what are we getting in those 7 episodes? Well, we're getting more mystery boxing. And I think what's more aggravating than just the mystery box television piece of it is not all television is like that. You do not need mystery boxing in order to have good TV. Banshee, Breaking Bad, Mobland, The Gentleman, The Westies, 3 of those are pretty new, and The Westies is airing right now. I think season 1 ends in a couple of days. You should be watching that instead. It's a good show. None of those things need mystery boxes in order to put on good television. But no, Lanterns can't operate as a weekly episodic show that has the protagonists experience new stories week to week with one overarching story to be resolved at the end of the season. No, this needs to be a mystery box show, which means episode 1 will ask a series of questions that will take 8 weeks of dragging ourselves through, and at the end, there won't be a satisfying payoff. Here are 85 of those opening question mystery box threads. Number 1, it's implied that Hal was working for 10 years as Green Lantern before revealing himself to Earth. Why? Is Jon Stewart Sr. deliberately training his son to have no fear so he can one day become a Green Lantern? How long has the Are You Afraid apple shooting ritual been going on? Number 4, why does Jon's brothers scatter the moment their father arrives home? Is Jon Stewart Sr. inspired by Joe Jackson? Number 5, what does Jon's father already know or believe about Green Lanterns, the Guardians, or Hal Jordan? And then we jump to early 2016. Number 6, 6. Why is Jon Stewart training to replace Hal Jordan? Was Jon Stewart chosen by the Guardians or the US government? Why is there only one Green Lantern for Earth when in the comics there can be many active at once? Each sector can have 2 lanterns and Earth routinely breaks that rule for more lanterns at once. Number 9. Why is Hal so reluctant, cynical, and almost sadistic in his training methods after only 2 months? Number 10. Why has Hal barely let Jon wear or use the ring when he's supposed to be training him? Number 11. What is the precise mechanism by which the ring chooses a successor? Number 12. What is the full nature and standard protocol of the ring's consciousness backup system? Why did Hal stop regularly backing up his consciousness around 2006? Number 14. Why is the 2006 version of Hal noticeably different in personality from the 2016 Hal? 15. Why does the 2006 hologram express surprise that current Hal has not taught Jon basic protocols? Why does the hologram compare the backup system to the cloud years before that term was common? Number 17. What does the coded message "there's hail in Rushville, Nebraska" actually mean or trigger? How does Hal's long-term monitoring system near the old crash site work? Number 19. Why does adult Jon still report to or seek guidance from his father during training? Was shooting apples off his head not a traumatizing experience, as it's implied to have been? Number 20. Why does Hal keep a monitoring system specifically tied to the Rushville crash site rather than a broader sector-wide network? Number 21. Why does Hal deliberately force Jon to take a commercial flight and rent cars instead of simply flying both of them to their destinations? Number 22. Why does Hal hate wearing the Green Lantern suit so much when it's supposed to be generated by the ring and not a suit and tie as the show establishes? Arrival in Rushville and stadium scene. Number 23. How did Jon Stewart know to go to the football field in Nebraska and that he would find Hal there? 24. Why did Abinsur's ship crash specifically near Rushville, Nebraska? 25. Was Abinsur's crash truly an accident? What were Abinsur's exact last words to Hal, and will we see that play out in live action? Number 27. Why do the Guardians of the Universe never want any lantern coming near Earth, which is something Hal alludes to? 28. What special significance does this rural Nebraska location hold? There are more than just lanterns here. Why? 29. The episode hints that the Green Lanterns might not be good guys, or that they might be corrupt or corruptible. Is this going to be some kind of anti-ICE political allegory told through Green Lanterns? Number 30. What exactly happened at the high school football game mass shooting? What were the motivations behind it? How many of the visiting team fans were actually aliens? Were there more than just the dude who blew himself up at the end? 32. Why are all the dead fans from the visiting team, with no local casualties highlighted? 33. Why does nobody in town seem particularly concerned about the mass shooting that just happened? 34. Why is Sheriff Girlboss so insistent the case has no alien connections at first? 35. What relationship do Sheriff Girlboss and Hal Jordan have prior to this mass shooting? Because it seems like they know each other. 36. What specific visual or forensic clues at the stadium immediately convince Hal the victims are not human? 37. Why does Melanie's brand new key trigger the bar grunts to a point of physical violence? 38. What is Grandma Lot Lizard's true level of knowledge or agenda when she immediately starts asking Jon detailed questions? Is she an alien? She's likely an alien. 39. For someone so by-the-book rigid when it comes to the rules, and also hasn't had much practice with the ring, and there's an active investigation going on, Jon Stewart seems a little too eager to not only hook up with Grandma Lot Lizard, but also use the ring to light her cigarette. For a guy that really doesn't know what he's doing with the ring, this seems kind of risky and out of character, no? 40. Will Jon Stewart contract syphilis? These are the real questions we're asking. 41. Why does Sheriff Girlboss keep Hal locked in a broom closet overnight rather than a normal cell? That's certainly not normal policing detention standards. Someone call a lawyer. We're suing the police department. Number 42. Why does Judge Sloan set bail at $100,000? This was a bar fight in a small town. I looked it up, and the higher end here is anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 if there are prior records. Also, then bumping it up to $200,000? Wouldn't that draw the attention of the press and news media? That seems unjust for a justice system now, doesn't it? 43. Who is William Macon, and what is his background? He clearly wants to convince Hal Jordan to do some nefarious work for him, but what is it and why? 44. Who is William Macon's secret benefactor, the real owner of the compound, who he claims he is only the caretaker under NDA of? 45. What is the full extent and purpose of William's private militia? 46. Why is William so convinced of an imminent alien colonization or eradication of humanity? Will this turn into an anti-ice allegory? 47. Why does William describe himself as a student of history who frames alien contact through colonization and the displacement of Native Americans? 48. What happened in the earlier mysterious shootout that nearly killed two of William's sons? 49. How much does William actually know about the current alien activity? 50. How does William already seem to know about Grandma Lot Lizard's encounter with John by the next evening? 51. Does William care positively or negatively about Grandma Lot Lizard's affair with John? It's implied that he's not happy, but not confirmed. 52. Is William Macon going to be a J.D. Vance allegory? Grandma Lot Lizard is his wife. She's Indian. William Macon has benefactors in a similar way to how J.D. Vance had benefactors like Peter Thiel. There's conversations about aliens. You can't fault me for asking. There's a lot of politically charged rhetoric in this show. I think that's a good question. 53. What is Billy Macon's real level of independence versus loyalty to his father? 54. Why does Sheriff Girlboss appear pressured and/or unhappy in her marriage to Billy? 55. What is Noah's longer-term significance, if any? 56. And now to the interrogation. What species is Waylon and the other aliens involved in this show so far? 57. Why didn't Hal use his ring to scan Waylon? It does have the ability to do that. 58. What is the full purpose of their presence here on Earth? 59. Why was their mission specifically supposed to stay hidden from the Green Lantern Corps? 60. What larger war or vengeance is coming? 61. Why did Waylon have a biometric self-destruct device woven into his skeleton? 62. Why does it beep like a regular bomb? 63. Why doesn't Hal Jordan carry the power battery to charge his ring? That seems recklessly stupid. 64. Why does Waylon know the Green Lantern oath word for word well enough to mock it? 65. Is Hal's celebrated fearlessness actually a form of loneliness or self-destructive behavior? How would he be as powerful as he's supposed to be if he's so conflicted? 66. Why does Waylon claim that a man who says he has no fear is really a man who wants someone to kill him? 67. Are there more aliens still present in or around the Rushville area after the explosion? How does that impact real estate pricing? 68. What residual effects, if any, remain from the contained explosion on the sheriff's station? And that brings us to 2026 and the current day and the sequence ahead. 69. Who killed Hal Jordan? Or is the frozen body even truly his? 70. Why is Hal's body sitting in the exact bleacher seat from 2016? 71. How long has the body been there? 72. Is the body posed deliberately, or did Hal simply just die there? 73. What happened to Hal's power ring? 74. Who currently has the ring, or a ring, in 2026? 75. Why is Jon Stewart ringless in 2026? 76. Why does Jon specifically check Hal's right hand for the ring? 77. Why does Jon appear not to have aged much? Sheriff Girlboss explicitly comments on this, despite her also not having aged a day herself. 78. What happened in the 10 intervening years? We go from 2016 to 2026. That's a lot of time. 79. What brought Hal back to, or kept him connected to, Rushville, Nebraska? 80. Why is Macon's ranch compound destroyed and in ruins in 2026? What happened there? 81. What is the current status of Jon's relationship with Sheriff Girlboss after a decade? 82. Why does Jon specifically ask Sheriff Girlboss about Noah's status before addressing the body of Hal? 83. What is Noah's status and role now that he's established to be a high school quarterback? Is he part of the plot overall? I kind of hope not. 84. Why does Sheriff Girlboss say only the groundskeeper knows, implying a deliberate decision to keep the discovery extremely quiet? Why hide this news? 85. How does Guy Gardner's existence as an active Green Lantern by the mid-2020s fit the succession rules shown here? And that is 85 questions from a single episode of this James Gunn, Damon Lindelof, Tom King mystery box show about Green Lantern. The point of this was not to say that these mystery box questions are plot holes, but more so that the whole point of every episode is to keep asking questions, questions of which may never be answered. There will be a lot of these that go completely unanswered by the season finale. And also, a majority of these questions are not going to be answered in ways that you feel satisfied with. That is the problem with mystery box television. It sets up question after question, 85 of them in just 1 hour, and yet never delivers on anything truly satisfying, because anything you and I discuss, whether it be on Twitter or in the comments or in more videos, speculating about what the answers could be, we will find out will be better than what the writers come up with. Now, as far as where this leaves you and I, we are going to try to do all of the episodes of this show, and we're going to establish all of the constant mystery boxing questions. I think it's important that we actually diagnose the problems here. Too many questions, not enough good answers. So if you'd like to join us for that ride, please hit the subscribe button. And be sure to check out our review channel, Fake Wizards, which is a collaborator here on this video. We're posting lots of reviews there every single week. Until next time, create, innovate, inspire, and cancel your Disney Plus subscription. And also don't subscribe to HBO, especially not for this show. Bye-bye.